Good evening, everyone. So my name is Dana, and I hope you all see me, all the participants. Yeah, and I ask you, please turn on all your videos. Just do not turn on your sound, so we can all see each other. That'll be interesting experience. That's how it should be, right? So my name is Dana, and I'm the host of today's FameLab final in Kazakhstan, and congratulations, you made it here. So it will be a little bit complicated, maybe challenging for you, but hopefully you'll do great. So you know, you have okay, so let's see. So we have everyone. I would like also first you to introduce to our jury, the people who will be actually judging your performance. It's a Jonathan Layfield, the charity affair from British Embassy. We have Aysana Ashim, you probably also know her. She is the CEO and founder of the Village Kazakhstan. She also will be judging you. And we also have Artur Saudabayev. He is a winner of FameLab 2000 something. And also he is a co-founder and CTO of Casually Incorporated. So he succeeded from the FameLab, probably. No, but so this is our three of you are juries. So probably we can all start. And we will start with our first speaker. And the first speaker is Asel Akhmetova. So I can see you here. So, and she will be talking. So the first speaker, I'm just telling for the jury, is Asel Akhmetova. She will be talking about the iron deficiency anemia. So it's a lot of medicine today, which is, I'm very excited about that. Asel, can you talk, please? So we can check the...
Hello.
Okay, we can see you, we can hear you. Darwan, you're
yes.
our timekeeper, so probably we can start, right?
Yes, we can start. So I said, when you're ready, please say like something. I'm ready, and I will put the...
Okay, let's start. Good afternoon, dear friends. Recently, I feel tired and weak. I don't want to do anything. Maybe I'm just lazy. However, I have pale eyelids, pale skin. My fingertips are cold. My heart is racing. I have low appetite, but I have craving for dirt. It sounds gross, but it is tasty. Also, I have few red blood cells, small in size. So what's going on with me? Thus, I decided to visit my physician. She told me to change my lifestyle, especially diet. She recommended to eat more beans, more dried fruits, more seeds and nuts, manganate, meat, and leafy greens. She also prescribed me iron supplements. Along those foods, she recommended to eat food rich in vitamin C since it helps to absorb iron. After following her recommendations, after about 3 months, I wasn't sleeping all the time. I was energized like a superwoman. So when I revisited my physician, she told me that I had a condition called iron deficiency anemia. Iron deficiency anemia is one of the most common types of anemia worldwide. The major cause of iron deficiency anemia is the inadequate intake of iron from our nutrition. When there is iron deficiency, our bone marrow cannot produce enough hemoglobin, which is protein in red blood cells that carry oxygen. Imagine in one red blood cell, there is about 270 million hemoglobin. So, consequently, in anemia, red blood cells cannot carry enough oxygen through our circulatory system to our tissues and organs. And this condition is called hypoxia. In healthy, normal person, blood contains a lot of healthy red blood cells, large in size, and which carries sufficient amount of oxygen. Luckily, I had a mild anemia and was able to correct my condition with thorough diet and food iron supplements. If a person has moderate to severe type of anemia, it can take a lot of time and effort to manage and treat the condition. Even blood transfusion can be needed. If you suspect iron deficiency anemia and has signs and symptoms as I had, like tiredness, weakness, please make sure to visit your physician, since prevention is better than treatment. Thank you.
Thank you, Asael. We really enjoyed it. Now probably I have to go and stop eating the soy and eating the iron vitamins. Okay, thank you. And we have our judges. Can you please unmute yourself? And you have so Artur, so I unmuted you, and Jonathan. So if you have any question to Asael, you can ask her 1 to 3 questions. Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
How common is this problem? Do a lot of people have iron deficiency?
About 1/3 of world population has iron deficiency anemia.
1/3. Okay, thank you.
Especially population from low-income countries because of lack of proper nutrition, healthy nutrition. Also, women of childbearing age and the children.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Asael, for your presentation. I was also curious about the scope of the problem, or the prevalence of anemia. I wonder, what are there's definitely moderate and more difficult severe cases of anemia. The quality of life, I guess, degrades and suffers quite a lot. How about economically for a country, for a government? What kind of health costs does this potentially carry? Is there a point for governmental act on this matter?
In Kazakhstan particularly, or worldwide?
It doesn't matter if wherever you feel the expertise to elaborate on. If you feel more comfortable speaking about Kazakhstan, then that would be the better answer.
Okay, in Kazakhstan, government-wise, I don't think there is some programs, but more preventative methods are done for childbearing, pregnant women, especially if they have like anemia during pregnancy. Doctors recommend to take iron supplements or infusions, and also if children has anemia, usually doctors are the main people who tell what to do. And unfortunately in Kazakhstan, I think like everywhere, many people are uneducated, and they don't they don't put so much attention to their health, so they don't eat proper diet, don't do sports, so it all affects their condition, and it can lead to iron deficiency anemia. So government-wise, we can do like promotion of good diet, like a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables, rich, not only one apple, but for example, 5 types of fruits per day, for example. Yes, that's, I think, the answer.
Thank you for your answer. And
Thank you.
Aysana, do you have a question?
Hello, thank you for your presentation. My question is, what are the long-term side effects of iron deficiency? Like, if there is some correlation with other more severe diseases?
Yes, unfortunately, iron deficiency anemia can lead to complications such as shortness of breath, severe, if the causes can be severe bleeding. Also, if there is severe bleeding, we should stop the cause of bleeding. For example, if the person has like stomach ulcers, we should first investigate properly what's the main cause, whether it is diet related deficiency or other, like as I told, like health chronic disease related conditions that lead. So other complications can be tachycardia, irregular heartbeat, which can lead to heart problems. Yes, for example, and also weakness, overall low quality of life because of lack of energy. A person cannot concentrate. I personally had iron deficiency anemia, and I was sleeping on my lectures, and I wasn't like keeping up with my lessons, and it also affected negatively on my studies. So main complications, examples of complications, I think, are those.
Yeah. I hope she answered your question. Thank you. Thank you, Jury, for your questions. I'll mute you again. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Asil. Good luck. I'll mute you. Thank you. So we have our next speaker. We have Nurasil. Can you please unmute yourself? Nurasil? Nurasil? No, Nurasil. I don't know how. Daniel, someone can you text him? Maybe he doesn't see. Nurasil. So our next speaker is Nurasil Batalkaze. He'll be talking about the science in the mining industry. Can you please talk so we can check that we have the sound?
Can you hear me?
Can you talk again? Yeah.
My name is Nurasil Batalkaze.
Okay, I think it's good. Okay, then we can start. And it's not about medicine, so it's good too. Okay, let's go. Darwan, are you recording? Did you start?
Yes, I'm ready. So, Nurasil, please tell me when you are ready.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's time to start. So, have you ever thought about like what watches or mobile phone or even this camera are made of? Probably they are made of different variety of metals, plastic, glass. For example, gold and silver. They are not only used for decoration or bijouterie. They can also be used for the wirings of the phone. Mined materials are needed to construct different things like roads, houses, libraries that we need, and vehicles. You can to make computers or satellites, and to generate electricity and other goods and services that we people enjoy. But how we get this material from the Earth's crust, and how we find it, and most importantly, how we are assessing the size, the value of the mineral deposit or ore body. So in every mining project, before starting to excavate it, we need to construct block model. What is a block model? Block model is a specifically set of size particles, blocks, in which it contains information like grade content, like gram of gold per ton. So, and based on this block model, we are estimating the tonnage of the mineral and how it is distributed along the ore body. So the main problem of the all mines is the reliability. To what extent your model is true. And just imagine that we have two drill holes. The holes from you are taking the samples from the holes and sending to the laboratory. And after laboratory analysis, you're getting the information like gram of gold per ton. And let's say we have 3 grams per ton here and 5 grams per ton here. So by simple interpolation, you may get 4, for example. But in fact, it can be anything. It can be even 0, because every mine is so unique. So researchers and scientists trying to develop new methodologies like simulation methods, because it provides many outcomes for each block, and it will be very helpful for the decision making. Or they started to pay attention for the artificial intelligence and machine learning. So by using these methods, you can predict the unknown value. So development of these type of methodologies helps not only in better assessment or prediction or production, it may also help to discover other mineral deposits or to work with old abandoned mines in which undiscovered materials may remain. And most importantly, it will help to work in more environmentally friendly way. Thanks.
Thank you, Nurasil. Well, that was a great presentation, and hopefully now there will be 1 to 3 questions from our judges to you.
Thank you, Nurasil, for your presentation. My question is, are there any specific peculiarities in Kazakhstan's mining industry in terms of science compared to other countries?
Basically, we have one good research center in Nazarbayev University, and I was a member of geostatistical group, and we were trying to handle this problem. And me and my professor, Nasir Madani, we were working with industry to help them to construct the block model, which is focused on getting a more reliable block model.
Okay, thank you.
Does this block model take anything into account about the environmental effects of mining?
Environmental effects. So when you are getting samples, you may also get other informations like the characteristics of the earth, rock type, lithology, and many other information. So that you can, after that, you can analyze this data and to get like image of the earth, how it's structured, how the earth is structured, but not about the environmental. I cannot say it's, you can judge something from the drill holes and to say like about the environmental issues. But I think if we are, it is, I think for hydrogeostatistics, they can use the same methodology to predict the emission of the emissions in the water content.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Narasla. I don't have any questions now.
Okay, then, yeah, that was because he was science and geoscience. I didn't know.
Dana, you muted yourself as well.
I muted myself. Okay, sorry. This is like, it was too complicated. If you see my screen right now, it's crazy. So, but we have another speaker. She will be talking about the brain attack, breaking down stroke. It's Shahista Ismailjanova, and she's a medical doctor. Shahista, can you talk a little bit so we can hear?
Yes. Hello.
Okay, then probably then just tell when you're ready to start.
Okay, I'm ready. Every 2 seconds, 1, 2, somewhere in the world, a person gets a stroke. This often results in a death or causes a disability. When somebody has a stroke, one of the arteries, a blood vessel that supplies our brain with blood and oxygen, gets blocked. This blockage can lead to brain death. How does this happen? Let's say this is an artery, a blood vessel from a healthy person's brain. I want you to appreciate how thin the walls are. Through this vessel, blood can flow without any difficulty. However, when a person is always under stress, has a high blood pressure and high cholesterol levels, these walls tend to change and become narrowed. And now they look more like this. The walls of the artery are covered with a plaque known as atherosclerotic plaque. These plaques pose a huge risk. If they rupture, they can stop blood flow to our brain. So, depending on the affected brain sites, we may experience different symptoms, such as sudden loss of speech, visual changes, or even paralysis. Once the symptoms start, we have a tiny window of time for stroke victims to get a life-saving treatment. This treatment comes in 2 forms. First, within the first 4 hours, we doctors inject a drug known as TPA, tissue plasminogen activator, to dissolve the plaque and restore blood flow to our brain. Secondly, surgeons can remove the plaque and again help the patients. So now you know that stroke is something serious and can be fatal if not treated urgently. However, I have some good news for you. Recent studies have shown that Moderately intense level of exercising and eating a healthier diet rich in fruits and vegetables can, in the long run, lower our risks of having a stroke. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm muted. Thank you, Shahista. I don't know. I think after all these speeches, I'll be starting good lifestyle, and start doing the sport probably. No, but still, at least I'm encouraged now. So, Shahista, you'll be questioned by our judges. So, Artur, Aysana, Jonathan, please, the floor is yours.
I do, yes. Thank you, Shahista, for this presentation, for this talk. As a doctor, I wonder how many preventable deaths due to stroke happen in Kazakhstan, and if known already, how did COVID contribute to the situation in the country?
Okay, so the first part of the question about the statistics. I'm not sure about Kazakhstan, but what I know is that every 1 out of 6 people can get a stroke, and this can happen at any time without any notification. So, speaking of this COVID, so COVID usually right now, as we know, there are no fresh studies about how exactly stroke and COVID are linked, but we can suppose that it worsens stroke because so stroke usually affects people who already have some sort of predisposition like diabetes, maybe old age or some other factors. And as we know, for now, people who have some heart disease, some other conditions are having COVID cases more severely. And we can suppose that the same trend is true with stroke patients.
Thank you.
I'll ask a question.
Yep. Yeah, sure.
I know that some of the treatments work by thinning the blood, which makes it easier to get through the arteries. But with natural treatments such as exercise and diet, do they actually improve the walls of the arteries rather than affect the blood? Okay, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Aysana, do you have a question?
I don't have questions.
Okay, so Aysana is healthy. She doesn't need to know about the stroke. Okay, so thank you, Shahista. I'll meet you. Okay, so we'll move on to another speaker, Jaswan.
Oh.
Okay, so our next speaker is Jaswan Ispolov. He'll be talking about the role of environment in the development of suicidal behavior. So just tell me when you'll be ready and we'll start the recording, okay?
Yes, I'm ready. Perhaps you know someone whose life unfortunately ended with suicide. Do you remember how they behaved? Probably there were few warning signs, but you would never imagine that this will be the last time you see them. And the reason for this is that despite their unbelievable craving to share their feelings, their inner voice keeps whispering, this has to be a secret. Therefore, in this talk, I'll bring your attention to one important tool that may become a key in preventing suicidal behaviors. So, there is a firm evidence that our behavior and mental health are imprinted in our genes via so-called epigenetic modifications. As the name implies, these are the small chemical groups that modify our genes. By binding to the DNA sequence, the older the rate at which the products are produced. It leads to a major shift in the hormone balance, neural connections, and even brain activation patterns, all of which shape who we are. Most importantly, these modifications appear in response to surrounding environment and normally help us adapt to it. To make it simpler, let's consider animal model. Suppose this is a mother rat that doesn't want to care about her pups. What kind of adults will this pups most likely become? Happy and social? No, they'll be anxious and isolated. And this behavior is actually advantageous in an environment where the danger is high, food is scarce, and no one cares about you because one must be highly alert and self-centered to survive. Self-centered to survive. But the bad side of this is that it may lead to depression. Stress hormones will elevate attention and energy in mice, but upon prolonged exposure to stress, it will deplete body resources. Neural connections that establish anxious isolated behavior will lead to loneliness, loss of interest, and even physical problems. Similar mechanisms exist in humans. If you compare twin siblings, one of whom was chronically depressed and the other was not, their epigenetic profiles will be completely different. And this is due to excessive modification of stress response genes. Using this knowledge, for the first time, we might have an objective criterion to diagnose mental health conditions. Imagine that you could screen people for depression using a blood test. Not only it makes the diagnosis fast and reliable, but it also inspires trust among patients due to its objective nature. Please care about those who you love, because your attitude may literally change them on the genetic level. Thank you.
It is quite an interesting subject. You were referring to a study on mice, I believe. I just wanted to ask what where that study was carried out and when. I've never heard of this myself. That's why I'm curious. Is this something which is being looked at exactly right now or last year, or this is some old studies and the field wasn't progressing so much? Yeah, can you shed some light on that, please?
Yes, of course. Such studies on mice were conducted in 90s or the beginning of 21st century, about 2000 something. Yes, about these years.
Understood. Thank you. So,
and of course, there is huge progress since the experiment with mice. For example, there were genetic studies on the twin siblings. And the point of these studies were to exclude the genetic criteria because they might affect the development of depression. So they excluded genetic factor and just looked at the environmental factor for the development of depression.
I have a question. Ruslan, thank you for your presentation. I know that last data on suicides in Kazakhstan, it was very dramatic. I heard that we are on third place in terms of suicides in the world. So do you have some data or findings about like your study, your topic, and the relation to Kazakhstan?
About the Kazakhstan, I do not really know because there is not much research in Kazakhstan. But in the world, it's about people who suffer from. In Kazakhstan, according to WHO, it's about 6,000 people who die from suicide each year, and it is statistics from 2012, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you have some data about how it affects men and women? Are there like difference? Is there any difference on that?
Yes. As far as I remember, men were more affected by suicide, but the difference is not so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ruslan. Thank you, judges, for your questions. So yeah, I'll mute you, Ruslan. Bye. Thank you. And so we have our last but not the least speaker before the small break. We have Darwan Suleimanov. Darwan, can you hear us? Are you here?
Yep.
Yeah. So he'll be, please welcome Darwan Suleimanov. He'll be talking about the antibiotic resistance, which is, I think, by who it was mentioned as one of the biggest threats to the humankind. So please tell us how to save us please, from the antibiotic resistance and how not to die in 2020. Okay, please welcome Darwan. Can you tell something so we can just make sure that we can hear you?
Yeah, hello.
Okay, so we can start. Just tell when you're ready. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you ever had an infection, you might have taken antibiotics. Antibiotics are drugs that kill bacteria. And 100 years ago, there were no antibiotics and life was hard and not really fun. You know, if you cut your hand, you could get an infection and die, and there was nothing you could do about it. Nowadays, we live longer and healthier lives thanks to antibiotics, but that might change. They may actually stop working soon. And we'll go back to the time when bacteria were kings and we could do nothing. So how does it happen? How do antibiotics stop working? Well, you see, we actually didn't invent the antibiotics. We simply borrowed them from other organisms, including bacteria. Yeah, you heard me right. Bacteria, which are killed by antibiotics, actually make their own antibiotics. So why do they do that? Well, imagine being a bacteria. You're surrounded by billions of other bacteria and you all want to eat, but there's not enough food for everybody. So what do? You make chemicals that kill other bacteria, logically, I mean. And that's what we call antibiotics. But other bacteria won't just stand there and watch you eat all the food. They will adapt. They will defend against your poison. They will spit it out. They will destroy it. They will cover themselves in protective layers. They're very inventive, yeah. So what happens when you go to the doctor and prescribes you a week of antibiotics? You take them for 3 or 4 days, you start feeling better, and you decide what's the point of continuing, and you stop. And what's actually happening is the antibiotics you took, they killed some of the bacteria, but others remained in your body. Among them are resistant ones. And now there's more food for them. So they start multiplying, they divide, they continue spreading their resistant genes to their offspring. And there's also an important thing that they can actually exchange genes through a process called conjugation. Basically, it's skill transfer, you know. There's a bacteria that's resistant to drug A and bacteria resistant to drug B. They meet, they exchange genetic information, and both come resistant to drugs A and B, and their children will be resistant as well. And if that happens enough times, they all will become resistant. Same thing happens when people take antibiotics when they don't need them, like during viral infections, like flu, common cold, coronavirus. Yeah, I said it. And what we're actually doing is killing off the weak bacteria and leaving the strong, resistant ones to multiply, to exchange their skills, to become stronger. And that's what we're seeing in the hospitals. There already exist bacteria which can only be killed by 1 or 2 available drugs. You know? Out of dozens that exist, only 1 or 2 can kill them. And soon enough, even they will become useless. And then there will be no hope for the patients with infections, and we won't be able to do any surgeries. It sounds scary, right? So what can you do if you don't work in the lab or in the hospital? Well, the best thing is you should always finish your prescriptions. If you're given antibiotics for weeks, take them for a week. And don't buy antibiotics by yourself. Don't self-prescribe. Let your doctor decide if you really need them. So remember, it takes a minute to bacteria to divide, and it takes years to develop a new antibiotic. Thank you.
Darwan, thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Is how much antibiotic consumption raised all over the world through some time, like maybe 10 years period or 20 years period?
I don't have clear data on that, but we can actually, we don't really need to know the amounts of drugs sold to actually evaluate the impact. We can see the when we screen people for infections, we find the infections and we check them for which drugs they can be killed with. And they're usually like a list of drugs, for example, 10 or 12 that can kill them, but which every year, like every bacteria is becoming stronger, resistant. So the number of antibiotics that can kill them is decreasing. And I cannot provide you with the data, but it surely is growing. That WHO, as Dana mentioned, outlined this problem as one of the biggest threats to the healthcare systems worldwide.
Mm-hmm. And thank you. And do you have any data on how big pharma companies, do they have some impact on people's consumption?
The interesting thing is, you'd be surprised, but pharma companies are among the ones who are sounding the alarm. Although they're selling the antibiotics, they're interested in people using them rationally. So some of them are starting their own campaigns of like antimicrobial resistance awareness and responsible use of antibiotics, because ultimately they want their products to be useful. So they're interested in keeping them, and making sure they work.
Okay, thank you.
Question from me. I know there's a big problem with some other drugs like opiates and painkillers of addiction. Is it possible to be addicted to antibiotics?
No, it's not really possible, because antibiotics do not they do not interact with your nervous cells and nervous system. They're basically designed to destroy certain molecules in the bacteria's structure. So bacteria basically explode or disintegrate, and they don't really attach to like our neurons in our brain and have any effect on our conscience.
Thank you.
And my another question is, do you have like top 5 of antibiotics in Kazakhstan that people use?
Well, I'd say the top one would be ceftriaxone, which, well, in the US, it's only used in hospitals, but here, like, even my grandma knows how to inject herself with it. And I'd say azithromycin and maybe doxycycline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
How long does the WHO and an expert, how long do we have until we have another worldwide emergency?
You mean like the current pandemic, or we run out of drugs? You mean?
In a way that we run out of antibiotics, which could suppress different epidemics and then global pandemics, that this will become really a worldwide crisis, because this indeed affects everybody, right? So we have quite state-of-the-art research, and then the new drugs come out, but still the race is quite difficult. So are there any predictions?
Well, there are no, it's hard to predict when like the superbug emerges that will be resistant to everything. Certain like different conditions have to be met. It has to come in contact with other bacteria, which will transfer those resistant genes, or it must be presented in the environment where it will interact with antibiotics trying to kill it. So there are no, like, there's not a certain date, like after 2021, we will not run out of antibiotics, but the supply is shrinking. So maybe the scientists have been talking about this for decades, and we've observed the progress. So maybe a couple more decades, and then we'll have to search for something new.
Thank you.
Thank you, Darwan. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, judges, for your question. Darwan, you can mute yourself, and I'll mute you. We have, on this very positive note, we said WHO, we said big pharma, we said coronavirus, so we're hot topic, check. We have a 10 minutes break for everyone, right, Darwan? Darwan, please reply to me.
Yes, I'm here. Yes, I think we're going well, so maybe 5 minutes will be enough.
Yeah,
And
so let 10, someone is telling 10, Darwan.
Yeah, I think because we're running a bit behind time, so yeah, 5's good.
5 is good. Okay, then let's do the 5 minutes break. So just have some water, coffee.
Thanks.
Okay, so Darwan, we'll start our second session.
Yes, we are ready.
Okay, great. So we have our next speaker. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing it wrong. It's just a very long name. Amanisahan Toglukova. So can you please unmute yourself? Okay, can you talk just a little bit so we can hear you? Can you talk a little bit louder then?
Oh, yeah. Hello?
Yeah, so that's perfect. So now we are finally talking about the most important topic of the life, the substance of love. So please, floor is yours. Minasahan, can you please also, when you're ready, just say, I'm ready, and start so we can start the recording.
Well, I'm ready. We all often talk about the love and that love will save this world, but have you ever thought about this from scientific point of view? Whether it really exists or is it already clear it's just a chemistry? Well, today chemistry can explain almost anything. So there is so-called substance of love that produced in our body, phenylethylamine, shortly PA. Well, technically, phenylethylamine is an organic natural compound which acts as central nervous system stimulant in humans. It is believed that phenylethylamine is synthesized in the body of human at the stage of the emergence or in the case of feeling of love. So how does it affect on our well-being? Well, here we have the human's heart, and PA through the vessels on the heart can act on receptors of heart valves. Here's the heart valves, resulting that increasing heart rate. And because of this, myocardial muscle inside of heart needs more oxygen, which triggers the heart beat faster. And that is why you can feel it pumping away when you feel attracted to someone. But however, it's not only about the heart, but more about the brain. So here's the mechanism of action. How is phenylethylamine is being produced? As we might know, the human brain is divided into separate parts, separate sections. The first of the sides is located above the spinal cord and is responsible for instincts such as territorial instinct, survival instinct, and others. The next section is the limbic system, controls such emotions as anger, hatred, depression, and opposite, calm, confidence, and love. So third plot also called the bark. So the bark is responsible for our thoughts. All three sides are interconnected and by hundreds of billions of nerve impulses that transmitted from neuron to neuron. So our substance, phenylethylamine, is located at the ends of nerve cells and helps impulses to pass from the one neuron to another. And that's how love is happening. So phenylethylamine actually is a neurotransmitter and neuromodulator of energy of interpersonal relationships. Often this occurs with such hormones in human body as dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and others.
3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amina Sahan. That I didn't know that love is so complicated. Now I know. So you'll be asked questions from our judges. Please, if you have any questions, please ask.
Do all people have a similar sort of amount of these pheromones in their brain, or is it different between different people?
Well, no, actually, when people feel attracted to another, like one person feel attracted for another one, they have a different amount of these nerve impulses, because it really depends on pheromones or pheromones that a human can consist of. So pheromones are really do some impact on the amount of impulses that are creating on human's brain. So yeah, for different people, it's really different amount.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. Do you have any data how being in love affects positively or negatively our health and maybe duration of our life? Like how long do we live if we are in love?
Yeah, sure. Actually, when our brain is synthesizing such hormones as phenylethylamine, it also produces hormones dopamine that actually can be responsible for such feelings as happiness, as calm. So when you like fell in love, you can feel that you calm, but for different people it could be really different. So sometimes for health, sometimes it will improve your immune system, because you will be happy, you will not be thinking about problems, as the stress in your life will be decreasing. So that is why health can be better if you fell in love. But at the same time, it could be affect negatively, because if a person has some really heart diseases or obsessive disease, he can be really stressful or think about the person he fell in love with. So yeah, it really depends, but mostly it affects positively on health.
Okay, and does this behavior of our, how we tolerate, if it positively or negatively affects, is it correlated, is it connected to epigenetics or genetics? Or even maybe region in the world?
Actually, maybe, yeah, it came from the genetics, but most of all, it's more depends on the stage or the level of how deep you feel, because it could be not really deep, and so it could be genetic. So yeah, as I said earlier, there are pheromones that affect, and if you meet the right person, it could be different amount of pheromones, and so it will be differently for each person. It's really there is no rules for this, and I don't think it's connected with genetics.
Okay, and my last question is, this writer Begbider, he suggested that love lasts for 3 years, and what scientists can reply to that?
Well, from the science, maybe it can be described because of that all these hormones, all these substances that producing during this feeling, yeah, they can be decreasing. So yeah, that is why maybe scientists and people say it lasts only for 3 years. But if not from the science view, it could last more, I guess.
That's very hopeful. Thank you, Aysana. Arthur.
Yeah, can I still ask a question? Do we have time?
Yeah.
Thank you.
You have very short one last question.
Yes, very short. Sahan, thank you for your talk. Obviously, there's a lot of questions about love. One thing I wanted to just clarify for myself, are we talking about love in a romanticized version of it, or are we talking about, in case of phenylethylamine, if I pronounce it correct, about the function of sexual attraction? For that, do other animal species have the same mechanism, and does it work towards their reproductive function?
Well, it's interesting. I don't think, I'm not sure about the other species, because I guess it's only producing in humans' body. But about the reproductive system, I think it can't do any impact on that, because it's only about the brain, on our feeling, our emotional state, our mental state, but not really with reproductive system.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So our next speaker, Dawlet, can you please talk a little bit so we can hear you?
Yes, hi everybody. Do you hear me?
Yeah, okay, great. So our next speaker is Dawlet Amirjanov, and he'll be talking about the coffee, because we see he's holding a coffee. It's a coffee time, so the floor is yours, Dawlet. Just give us a couple of seconds before you stay ready, so we can start recording your speech, okay?
So I am ready. Hi, my name is Dawlet, and I'm in love with coffee. So it's no surprise for my friends that I'm going to talk about coffee. So let's pretend it's Monday, 9 a.m. And you're probably at work or maybe university, and you feel sleepy after a weekend. So what do? People like me go to take coffee. And well, we could definitely before the pandemic. So what happens next? Once you drink your coffee, it gets into your stomach, where the food is digested usually. There, the caffeine and coffee is absorbed completely, so nothing wasted from the precious coffee. Then you will have, like in 5 minutes, caffeine going around to your body and activating things. Soon enough, it will enter the brain, and it will attach to the adenosine receptors, but I would rather call it a fun police. Why? Well, if it gets activated by the molecule known as adenosine, it will block other molecules from going out and activating things in your brain. When caffeine attaches to this adenosine receptor, the molecules will be released from the brain cells, and the other parts in your brain will feel it. For example, pituitary gland will release adrenaline. Some of you may know this hormone because it will make your heart beat faster. It will increase your blood pressure. It will bring more blood to your muscles. It will open your airways. And you know this reaction probably as a fight or flight reaction. So as a result, when you take your coffee and it gets into your brain, you'll start to have some energy. You'll be excited, you'll be alert, and you can do some work on Monday early morning. But there are differences between people, as all people are unique. So some people will have a faster reaction to caffeine. Some will have a slower reaction. So what does it mean? In that when the caffeine gets into your body, it can be in the blood at a longer time. Why does it happen? Once the caffeine is in your body, it cannot be removed easily or excreted. So it should first change to another structure called paroxantine. But I would rather call it a caffeine 2.0. This caffeine 2.0 can be easily excreted by kidneys. And at that time, you will probably go and pee. But the change between the caffeine 2.0 is made by the cytochrome, which is unique for every person. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawlet. Coffee. I was just like the small, because you're holding Costa because it's a British organized event.
No.
So, no,
it's my favorite.
Okay, Jardas, if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Dawlet, thank you for your presentation. Are there any people that can drink coffee and the people that cannot drink coffee? And how much can we drink coffee? For example, 1, 2, 3 cups is better. I mean.
So yes, thank you for your question. It actually depends on the cytochrome enzyme. Genetically, there are differences in every person. And for example, if one person have a mutation or unique difference, it will make caffeine more, more effective, or maybe it will last longer in the body. That's why this person will have some symptoms of overdose of caffeine. other people will change or metabolize the caffeine at a faster rate. And these people will be able to drink more coffee and will have less effects of the overdose. And well, usually it is advised to drink coffee for people who can tolerate it, like maybe 3 to 5 cups a day. That would be okay for a person. But it depends also on the specific population. For example, pregnant women, they should drink, if they want to drink coffee, they should drink less, because in their body, caffeine is stuck like at a longer time.
Thank you, Dawlet. I also wonder the same. There's a lot of studies which show that coffee associated with reduced risk of diabetes, of some certain cancers, but there are clear limitations. There are studies which show that more than 2 cups of coffee in pregnant women associated with higher risk of miscarriage. Children clearly are not allowed to drink coffee. So isn't it in general just something quite dangerous, and in long term suppressing adenosine receptors for us, for the state of our mind? Aren't we trying to get some superpowers at the cost of our long-term health?
So I got your question, and it actually depends. So for example, a person can die from water if he drinks too much. So there is a question of how much you drink it and at what rate. For example, people that are drinking like a lot every day, maybe 1 liter or more of Americano, let's say, and if they drink it like every day, maybe at any time, even at night, they will have troubles. They will have troubles like falling asleep, for example. But if you control the balance, if you control the rate at which you drink coffee, everything is going to be fine. Yes, it is quite not dangerous, but not advised to drink coffee for children and for the pregnant women. But it actually has a variety of good effects on different parts of your body. So, for example, if you take a brain and if you take patients with dementia, there is some studies that shown that regular caffeine intake decreases the probability of getting dementia when you're older. So it depends.
It does indeed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dawlet. I'll meet you back. Okay, thank you. So we have our next speaker, Yerkejan. Yeah, can you please unmute yourself? So, our next speaker is Yerkejan Kalikanova, and she will be talking about the gut and how the gut talks to the brain. Can you please talk so we can hear you?
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me?
Okay. Yeah. So whenever you're ready, just give us a couple of seconds, say I'm ready. So, and we'll start the recording.
So I'm ready. Hello, everyone. My name is Yerkejan, and today I'm going to share with you a fascinating story. So first, let's imagine yourself as a planet Earth. So as a planet Earth has different continents, our body has different parts. So, and let's just focus on one of the most populated continents, which is Eurasia. And in our body, this is the gut. So as Eurasia like populated with people, us, our gut is populated with the microbes. So we people have a specific relationship with our Mother Earth, and we make it like to our best of the relationship as the microbes in our gut did. So one of the most popular microbes, bacteria, there are all over trillions of bacteria in our gut. They are living their tiny lives and working hard. So specifically, there are three categories of this bacteria. The first one is just the neutral bacteria that habitate our gut. They just live their lives and just ignore us. So the second type is the bad guys. They do harm to us, but actually we learned how to fight to them. And the third one is the actually friendly neighbors, bacteria that help us a lot. So overall, bacteria and microbes, they play different effects on our health. So one, they help us to digest our food. Another, they help to regenerate our gut. Another, modulate and educate our immune system to fight intruders. So, but it's obvious actually that our gut microbiome, it affects the dietary needs that we want. But it's not so obvious, and it's a lot more for the gut microbiome because it actually talks to our brain. So it's fascinating actually. So how it does this? So first of all, itself, our gut has the neurons, more than 500 million of neurons. And you will say, interesting, our brain sells its neurons, it should be in the brain. But it's really fascinating. These neurons actually can be activated by our microbiome and release specific substances, which are neurotransmitters that send the signal to the brain. And this all is actually occurred by a specific highway called a vagus nerve between the gut and the brain. So, actually, it's really fascinating that do we really affect our choices of what we eat or what we want to eat? Do we decide this, or our bacteria do this for us and send the signals to the brain? So this is the last question for you. Just think about it. Just have a food for thought. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Yerkejan. Dear judges, if you have any questions, please ask.
Are these bacteria in everyone's gut a sort of equal level? I mean, do some people have more good bacteria than bad bacteria, and other people have more bad bacteria than good bacteria, say?
Yes, so this is thank you for your question. So actually, yeah, it depends from people to people. It depends on the environment where they live, on their stress level, on their work and everything. And they have different levels of some bacteria and another bacteria. There are like more than 5,000 types of bacteria that habitate, good bacteria that habitate our gut, and they differ a lot. So because, for example, it was the experiment on mice showed, for example, that when a mice which had the stress and the mice didn't have the stress, they have different content of the microbiome, the bacteria itself. And this also comes to the people itself. So,
Thank you.
But they're right, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm being manipulated right now by my bacteria.
Yes, very free will.
I think my bacteria wants some coffee, actually. Thank you, Yerkejan, for your talk. So there is knowledge that this bacteria colonies, they definitely affect our well-being, our skin quality, our health general quality. Is there known facts how it affects in a very distinct way human behavior? Can a person be angrier than average because of his manipulated nature of his bacteria, or there's no such thing?
So yes, actually, like last decades, it is investigated more and more with scientists, and specifically the experiments were done on mice, on animals, not on people, because we don't have this, like the ethics don't allow this. And in mice, as I said before, they have tested this, that mice could be more stressed, more angrier, and than the mice that have a different microbiome, a good microbiome. So, and for the people, they also are trying to investigate the effect of specific strains of the bacteria, for example, by doing the transplantation of this bacteria to see how the behavior is changed. And also effect on different kinds of disease, like neurodegenerative disease, like Parkinson, also autism, and the level of the depression and the stress itself. So this actually, the relationship of the gut and the brain, it's like bidirectional. So how you will direct your microbiome will also affect how you will feel, and how you will feel also affect your gut microbiome. It's like a cycle. So
understood. Thank you. The question is still who is in the driver's seat, I guess.
Yes.
Yerkejan, thank you for your talk. I have a question. So now we know that we are manipulated not only by brain and neurons in our brain, but also neurons and bacteria in our gut. So what should we do? Like maybe you can suggest top 5 actions for us people.
Yeah. So yes, of course, like the obvious thing is to have a diet, like a healthy diet, which will induce and stimulate the growth of the good bacteria. And this is actually why the diet includes the fibers that good bacteria love, the green things and everything. So the diet itself, the nutrition level of the food that we eat will affect our microbiome, and then this will affect our behavior, our mood, and the overall health of our organism. So yeah, this is just the obvious suggestion to control this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you, Yerkejan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your talk. Thank you, judges, for your questions. So we're moving to our next participant, Darwan Suleimanov. Can you please unmute yourself? Okay, thank you. So we have Darwan Suleimanov. He will be talking about the chemotherapy. Can you talk a little bit so we can test this? Okay, so whenever you're ready, just say I'm ready. Give us a couple of seconds and we will start recording. Please, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm ready. How do you think what soldiers felt when they knew that there is a sniper on the other side of the battlefield? It's strange that we don't feel the same because we are in the middle of the war that started from the era of the dinosaurs, the war where we lose almost 10 million people each year. And the most horrifying news is that you are under the target of the sniper that we call cancer. Right now, while we're sitting here, there are millions of molecular mechanisms that go on. And there is a chance of your molecular computer showing some error screen. And when it happened, sniper got you. But don't worry. We have good doctors in our hospital that can offer different therapy. I'm on the division of the chemotherapy, and we're trying to understand and predict the behavior of the cancer cells. We want to know in which conditions and how our enemy attacks. It's almost like in a movie, imitation game, with the difference that we work in a laboratory and deciphering cancer messages. So to understand my research, let's talk about the role of the microtubules in cancer. They play a huge role in cell division when cells split into 2 identical cells. Normally, microtubules grow and shrink, grow and shrink, grow and shrink when different proteins interact with each other. By damaging microtubules, we can stop cell division. So some of you might wonder, why do we need to stop cell division? Well, that's because cancer cells actively divide and form tumor. They take all nutrients to grow even more and more and more. As a result, normal cells are starving and patients are dying. When we add microtubule targeting agents, microtubule no longer able to grow or shrink. This causes enormous error in cancer, and they start to produce self-eliminating signal. And basically, we're trying to achieve this self-eliminating signal. And most importantly, we are achieving it because patients with timely diagnosed cancer are able to have prolonged remission. So, but unfortunately, there are some side effects. When people lose their hair, when they feel nauseated and sick, this happens because this drug works on all rapidly dividing cells. So, right now, there are some questions. And I would like to say that this drug could work perfectly well if cancer cells did not develop the resistance. So, and the questions are, how do they develop resistance? And why do kill themselves when microtubules don't work. And when we find the answer for these questions, we win and end the war after which we save 10 million people each year. Thank you.
Judges, if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Yep, can I ask a question? There are lots of sort of different cancers, as we know, for example, prostate cancer, breast cancer, lung cancer. Is chemotherapy effective for all of these or only some of them?
In most of the cases, we use chemotherapy, but right now, there are new methods like immunotherapy, genetic therapy, and so on. And the most actively using drug in our modern medicine is chemotherapy and surgery, of course.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Nurdaulet. I'm just curious. You said you're part of certain of the research group, I guess, who's working on chemotherapy. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious. There's chemotherapy, radiation therapy. There's a big promise of immune and gene therapy in cancer in the future. What motivated you to go into researching chemotherapy? It is the most commonly used and the most effective today, I understand. But was there any specific reason why you wanted to focus your efforts in this research direction?
I think because, as you said, it's mostly used drug in oncology, so to say. But I choose this because I think there is a value for me. I want to help people. I want to make some changes in this field because I've almost like there is some sort of stagnation, so to say, and I would like to make some differences. So I see this as a good opportunity to get to know with the cancer and make some differences, changes.
Understood. Thank you.
Aysana, do you have any question? No? Okay, so then thank you, Nurdaulet, and thank you, judges, for your questions. I'll mute you back. So we have our last but not the least speaker of tonight is Svetlana Mikhailova. Hi.
Meet you.
Yes, she will be talking about the principal work of the solar cell. Her title of her speech is Solar Cell Work Principle. So once you're ready, just say I'm ready and give us a couple of seconds so we'll prepare to record you. Okay, please go ahead.
Hi, I'm ready. So we know that ecological problems like constant smoke in the cities affect the environment and someday could lead to the humanity extinction. Use of energy for which we don't need to burn anything is one of the ways to improve the ecology. The most common device that generates such energy is the solar panel. The solar panel is a chain of photocells, namely semiconductor devices that convert solar radiation into electric current. Semiconductors are materials with a strong dependence of their electrical conductivity on the external influences like temperature or radiation. Semiconductors are called N-type when the main charge carriers are electrons, when the electrical conductivity takes place. Semiconductors are called P-type when the main charge carriers are holes. Holes are absence of electron, means vacancies, and can consider to have a positive charge. So the simplest photocell is a combination of P-type and N-type semiconductor. A p-n junction is formed at the interface between two semiconductors when the electron transferred to the boundary region of the P-type semiconductor due to diffusion. As a result, the boundary region of the P-type semiconductor charged negatively and the boundary region of the N-type semiconductor charged positively. This is how the electric field of p-n junction is formed. It plays role like a barrier, which doesn't allow extra electrons from the N-type semiconductor pass into the P-type semiconductor to occupy all the empty places there. Such charge distribution of boundary region of PN semiconductors allow the sun, which eliminates the photocell, to break the covalent bonds. Here, electron leaves its orbit and a so-called hole takes place in this place. This is how the electron-hole pairs are generated throughout the structure. So this leads to a high concentration in electrons in the N-type region of semiconductors and the holes in P-type region of the semiconductors, which cannot be united due to the presence of electric field of the P-N junction. So what to do? The only place these charged particles can move to is metal contacts along the semiconductor's edges. At this contact, charged particles flow into the battery, charging it. So as a result, the photocell works like a wheel along which electrons run like squirrels. The power of one photocell is very small. That's why individual photocells are combined into electrical circuits, forming a solar panel. We know that widespread distribution of solar panels will gradually improve our ecology.
3 minutes.
So wherever our future will be, ecological hell or paradise depends on our actions today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Please, that was really great. I really liked your animations. I was thinking, do you have a tattoo or what is it? So please, judges, if you have any questions, please go ahead.
Thank you, Svetlana. Your talk reminded me of the years of electrical circuits. It gave me a bit of shivers. I don't want to go again a bit into the engineering part. I want to ask about a question to the side. In terms of ecology, so is there potential to also perform some sort of mini terraforming events with solar panels? And let me explain what I mean. If we take and cover an entire desert with solar cells, like all of it, I don't know, a desert in Kazakhstan or Mojave Desert in Nevada, will it stop becoming desert? Could we change that? Can we change that outline of ecology and landscape over time, or not really?
Well, frankly speaking, there were one project which regarded to the Sahara to put there the great power plants and transfer the energy to the Europe. I don't know for sure if it's on its way or it was cancelled, but regarding the terraforming, if we put to the solar panels extra consumer functions, for instance, heating or putting some vegetation in order to make a heat at night, or maybe collecting some water, sure, we can do it. But of course, we need to do a lot of experiments within the lab, then go into the production. But I suppose for today's humanity, everything is possible. It's a question of time and money.
Is there much usage of solar? Is there much usage of solar here in Kazakhstan?
Well, this number is growing up. However, the share of green energy doesn't exceed 2 or 3%.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
My question was also about Kazakhstan. So in our country, it's not widespread. I mean, it's only 2 or 3%. And does this event Expo changed something? Did Expo change something or not in terms of solar?
In case of renewable energy, I have doubts about it. But nevertheless, we meet a lot of people. We show our experiments and works in terms of renewable energy things. So on the political arena, I think, yes, it was a great impact. In case of solar cells distribution or any other alternative energy distribution, well, I have doubts about it.
Okay, and which country is a pioneer or a leader in terms of solar cells distribution?
Well, if you asked me 10 years ago, I would say it was USA and Germany. But now we know that all things are made in China, so China is an absolute leader in terms of solar energy.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Svetlana, thank you. So that was a very great last talk. So Darwan, what we are doing now, we are removing the finalists from the conference and the judges are going to make a decision, right?
Right. So you're
start removing them.
No, maybe you say something.
Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you for your talk. I really enjoyed it. And I hope the judges also enjoyed them. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Hi all, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you then.